Mark Berkoff is the evolutionary biologist at California University at Boulder. He asserts that lack of play is not only responsible for much of what we consider to be mental burnout and physical exhaustion, but it's also linked to seemingly unexplained yet significant levels of unhappiness within our daily lives. See, I think as adults, the implicit message is, if you're really serious about life, and if you ever want to accomplish anything significant, that accomplishment only comes through hard work and perseverance. Now, while anyone I have ever known in my close circle of influence or within the periphery of my life who has accomplished anything worth mentioning has invested countless hours of what seems to be, from an outsider's perspective, tediously hard work, I think upon closer examination you start to realize that people who work from ache to faint, people who have this creativity on demand and a seemingly inexhaustible level of resources and productivity, they're not people who work very hard, but people who have found a way to play hard. They're people who, not by force of will, but by flow of passion, have engaged in something in their life's purpose that's deeply meaningful and deeply enjoyable. I had a meeting with a young fitness professional in his mid-20s who actually started a business, and he's doing okay, but he seems to be struggling mentally. He's lost the passion and excitement for what it is he does. And I asked him an interesting question. I said, can you remember a specific time in your life where you just woke up every day and you seemed to be in a state of flow, where you just couldn't do anything wrong, and you were filled with excitement, you were connected with your clients, you seemed to be inspiring and intrinsically inspired? And he thought about this for a while, and it took him a couple of minutes, and it was kind of uncomfortable because it was this long drawn out period of silence. And then the answer was, yeah, I remember that when I used to read and study continually, I always felt inspired. I always felt like I was on the top of my game. So I said to him, well, you don't do that anymore? So now as a business owner, is that you don't have time to read and study? And he said, no, I still do. I don't understand. And upon further conversation, we discovered that yes, he's still engaged in personal and professional development. The difference is, now every time he watches a video, goes to a seminar, opens up a book, it's with the explicit purpose of trying to find ways to grow his business. And that's not a bad thing, that's a very good thing. But what the quintessential difference was, is that in the early phases of his career, he used to read for the love of reading. He used to develop himself completely detached from an outcome, because the payoff was not in the future, the payoff was in the process he was engaged in the present. So there are two ways to engage in play, mental and physical. So 15 minutes, identify something you can do every single day involving movement where there's no outcome attached. So in other words, if we're going to the gym because we want to increase the weight of our bench press, that's not a great example of play. Engaging in movement simply for the fun of engaging in movement is a much better example of play. And the second one could be doing something we absolutely love to do, whilst being completely detached from what that activity is bringing to fruition. Kind of like watching a 5-year-old play with one another. They play simply because it's enjoyable, not because they're looking for something or a reward at the end of the process. So banter could be a great way to engage in play. Going out with one of your friends or your spouse or someone in your family that you really get on with. If you don't like them, this doesn't work as well. And maybe having a cup of coffee, maybe having a pint or a tea, and just engaging in verbal jostling for 15, 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day. It's not frivolous. First of all, it's the quintessential meaning of life, because life is about relationships to a large degree anyway. And it also can help us become more powerful, more creative, more productive, and more perseverant in our work life as well.